There we go. We are live. So, welcome to the live today. It's Thursday, Pro Singer Success Collective, and we have a really good topic for today because I think it's something that you guys struggle with, and some of you recognize that you have a nasal sound. Some of you may have even been told that you have a nasal sound, either by coaches or maybe you've listened to yourself in recordings and you hear that you have a sound that may be more nasal, more strident than you would like. And others of you may not be aware of that, but it might be something that you are concerned about because you don't want to have a nasal sound. So, regardless of if you are on either end of the spectrum, it's actually a pretty simple thing to understand where the nasal sound comes from and why you have the nasal sound when you just think about physiology. So let's just talk first about where a nasal sound comes from. So thinking about the shape and space that sound resonates in, right? We have resonators. Sorry guys, I can't get that to stop beeping. I don't know how to get that to stop beeping. Sorry. Live, right? What are you gonna do? So first we need to understand the shape and space of resonance. And sound resonates in the body in a couple different places. In your chest, which is why we have chest voice, that's chest resonance. And then in your head, but a couple different places in your head, which is between your skull and your brain, sound bounces around. In your sinuses, right? Any place that is hollow in your head, sound will bounce around, and in your mouth, which we call the buccal cavity, your mouth cavity. And the shape and space of the resonance determines the sound. So if you have a nasal sound, it's because the shape and space of the resonance going on in here, namely in your buccal cavity, is reflecting that resonance much more up into nasal cavity, into nose, and that's why you have a nasal sound. But how does that work? Why does that happen? So the inside shape of your buccal cavity determines that resonance. So what shape creates a nasal sound is when your soft palate is low. So you guys know where your soft palate is? So I'm sure you know where your hard palate is, right? That's your hard palate. But if you go further back, if you run your tongue along your hard palate, you'll get to your soft palate. It's that soft space that, like, when you yawn, stretches. That's your soft palate. So for those of you who deal with a strident sound, with a nasal sound, it's happening because your soft palate is depressed. It is sad. No, I'm kidding. It's low. And we can manipulate the shape and space of the soft palate. So if you think about when you yawn, the soft palate's really high. It stretches up like a big old cavern or balloon back there. Oh, so if you make yourself yawn, you feel that massive stretch of your soft palate, like way up between your ears. When we sing, we also want a really high stretched soft palate to make room for the sound to bounce around in the most optimum way. If that space does not exist, and that soft palate is low and not even neutral, but like actually low and depressed, it closes off all that space. And so all that space where the sound bounces and really wants to resonate up in here no longer exists. Soft palate is down and low. There's nowhere for the sound to go. It can't go back there. All it can do is go straight out your nose, right? It can only go this way. Okay. So you can play with this by actually creating a nasal sound. Like the sound that makes me think of is Janice on Friends. And if you watch Friends, and Janice is like Chandler Bing, right? Any of you, I hope you watch Friends, otherwise you're gonna have no idea what I'm talking about. That if you create that sound, if you mimic the Janice sound, and then notice the inside shape, notice what your soft palate is doing. You'll notice your soft palate is really depressed. It's on a tilted angle that's tilting and pushing everything towards your nose. And you'll notice that your tongue and your soft palate, I'm trying to do this in a way that makes sense. Your tongue and your soft palate are now almost touching. Your soft palate has come so far down that it's pretty much touching your tongue. At least it does in my mouth when I make that ha 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 sound. So those of you who have a nasal sound, a more nasal sound than you want when you sing, it's because your soft palate is too low. And the answer to that is pick it up. So what do we do to pick up the soft palate? I could give you a million shapes and a million tools to directions to give yourself to do that. I'll throw some spaghetti on the wall here for you today. You can think ears widening away from each other. That tends to pull your soft palate up. You can think, you can feel it on a nose breath. If you think smell something yummy, like smell some brownies, smell some cake. If you do that, you can feel your soft palate stretching up. You can think of like fish hooks up in the back of your soft palate, pulling your soft palate up and out in the top and out of your brain. You can think, take your top back molars and pull your molars, ride your molars up into your brain. You can think soft palate and hard palate pulling up off your teeth and riding into your brain. And so if you make the Janice sound and then you think any of those things, you'll see it pulls your soft palate in the opposite direction. So like I thought, pull my molars up into my brain. And you could literally see it like in my face as I do it. So that while you sing, I'm going to, again, exaggerate it. But if you make the nasal sound, I don't know, I'll just do it on a ma exercise, like ma, it's very nasal. And the way I'm creating that is by pushing my soft palate down towards my tongue. And notice I released my jaw to do that too, because the more soft my jaw is, the easier it is for the muscles around soft palate to release so that soft palate can stretch up into that domey shape that we really want. So experiment with this today. Explore this today. Whether you have a nasal sound or not, start to really witness where your soft palate is, what shape it's in, how high it is. The higher and the more stretched and tilted up the soft palate is, the more room there is for all that energy of sound and vibration to vibrate so that it's going this way instead of, if soft palate is down, it's going to go this way and right out your nose. Okay. Feel free to ask me any questions about this, by the way, because I know this is not always the most intuitive, like easy thing to feel or to understand. So as you're playing with this, if you have some questions, put it in the chat. I'll come back in here later today, tomorrow, and respond to you if there's something that you're not really sure if you're feeling right or not. But just know that a nasal sound is really easy to address when you get in touch with being able to pull up your soft palate. So use those tools. Think, pull your molars up into your brain. Think my ears are widening away from each other. Or think I'm pulling my soft palate and hard palate up into my head as you do these notes. And you will notice your ability to manipulate soft palate in a more constructive way actually really helps that nasal sound. Okay, guys, this has been a short but sweet live. Any of you who are watching live, do you have any questions? Type in the chat, say, hey, I know there were some of you. Tell me where you're watching from. I see you. And if you don't have any questions, that's cool. I'm glad. But if you do, I want to make sure I can support you. Okay, everybody. Next week, we'll be live back on Monday at the usual time. Weren't live this week on Monday because it was Memorial Day. So I hope you guys had a great holiday. Play around with your soft palate, and I will see you next week. Bye.